So good evening. Thank you, for inviting me to meet SFI Sangha tonight. And behind me is a picture from the Aloka Earth Room. This is a practice space in San Rafael, just on the other side of the Golden Gate Bridge. A practice space, dedicated to the weaving together of Dharma, ecology, and art. And Johnny is going to paste a link into the chat if you're interested. And there is also 2 weekly meetings, one online and one in person. You can see more at the link in the chat. And my name is Aya Santachita, and I'm originally from Austria. I'm a bhikkhuni, and I'm a nun since the early 90s. And I started, my training in the Ajahn Chah tradition in England, Amaravati Buddhist Monastery with Ajahn Sumedho, and came together with Ayananda Bodhi, who recently taught for you, I think, last month. We came together to San Francisco in 2009 and started the Aloka Vihara there. And later on, we moved to the Sierra foothills and had the Aloka Vihara Forest Monastery, which we recently disbanded and sold because of the fire problematic out there in the foothills. And now I have started this place here in San Rafael. And tonight I'd like to speak about Buddhanusati, which is a reflection on the qualities of the Buddha. And just, last full moon earlier this week was what's called the Vesak, which is, one of the great holidays in Buddhism, which are observed, particularly in Asia. And Vesakha Puja, the full moon of May or June, depending, is considered to be the day when the Buddha was born, when the Buddha realized full awakening, and when he passed away. So that's why it's considered a very important day to remember the Buddha. And that's why I've chosen this theme today. And Buddhanusati is, one of the so-called 4 protective meditations. And these are, 4 meditations which are all 4 found in the sutta, but not as a list. That's a later, that has been put later together, probably in Sri Lanka in about the 5th century AD. And it can be found in the Visuddhimagga in chapter 7, this list of the 4 protective meditations. And there are 4 different meditations to develop courage, to meet the way things truly are. And they are protective because they're offering protection from particular unwholesome mind states, and they reinforce the corresponding wholesome essential qualities for the path, like a specific remedies, for specific ailments, we could say. So guarding the mind from negativity and also reminding the mind of the potential. And the first 2 are Recollection of the Buddha and Metta, and they show the potential of the mind. And the other 2, the second 2, are Asubha, which is the meditation on the not beautiful, meditation on a certain aspect of the body, and Recollection of Death. And those 2 show us the limitations of a human life. So the first 2 show us the potential, and the second 2 show us the limitations of a human life. The first 2 elevate the mind, and the second 2, help the mind to let go of attachments. Just by simply seeing, the way things truly are through those meditations. On the one hand, we can see the grandeur of the mind and the capacity of the mind to be limitless. And on the other hand, we can see, that the body, the vulnerability of the body, and at one point the body is going to cease to exist, the death of it. So both of those, they can work together. And so the first one, recollection of the Buddha, uplifts the mind and gives the mind faith and confidence in the potential, because the Buddha was a human being just like us. Shows us, the maximum capacity and helps to overcome fear, and is generally not so easy to be taught in the West, because, our capacity for devotion is not very encouraged, Nevertheless, I think it's a good thing, for all of us to taste it at least once. And then the second one, metta meditation, I'm sure all of you have done that as one of the 4 Brahma Viharas, loving kindness, or sometimes it's also called benevolence. Get generally, considered to be an antidote to ill will and anger and fear, opens the heart and gets us back on track when we get lost in some of the negative emotions, and helps us to just, make some space to embrace what's happening, to give it space and to allow it to be there. And then through that allowing and acceptance, it starts to change. It starts to transform. Just like somehow, going through the fire of what anger is and not shutting down, then it's just going to be purified into, and into a very different kind of energy. But just keeping steady with it and not suppressing it. And then the third one, asubha. Subha means beautiful, and asubha means not beautiful. And that's considered, an antidote to lust, and also helping us to see the other side of the body. It's not, this meditation isn't about, having a aversion to the body, but it just helps us to balance it out, to show us, on the one hand, bodies can be very, very attractive, our own bodies and the bodies of others. But then if we look at the body in this particular way, in the Asubha practice, we can see there's also another side to the body. For example, like cutting the body open and looking, what's inside the body, for example. Then, we can't help but, there's a certain, feeling of like, wow, coming up, which can be very, kind of refreshing, showing us a very different side of what it is to have a body. And then also the meditation on the elements. I think I have given the last time when I was here in your Sangha in February, I have given a guided meditation on the elements, which also shows us, that the body and the planet are not 2 separate things. The body is part of the planet. The body is a secretion of the planet. And the body and the planet are in constant exchange, and we never cut the umbilical cord to the planet. And if we do that practice, consistently, we're going to experience a shift in our perception. And this is, for example, a meditation I share very often here in the Aloka Earth Room, because the practice here in the Earth Room is all about this shift of perception. This shift of perception, who we understand ourselves to be, and to really get more in sync with the truth, that the body and the planet are one being. And it sounds, a little bit kind of philosophical, but through doing this meditation consistently, we will start to experience that shift. And then through that, different ways of sensing into this non-separation become available, because they are already, capacities of our senses, which we haven't really trained enough, but they can come online through consistent training. So that's the Asubha practice. And then the last one, recollection on death, classically is done to give us a sense of urgency for the practice. It's considered to be a remedy for heedlessness. And, to realize that this body is just, a riding animal borrowed from nature. And when the time comes, to give it back, then the time will come, and to have to know that this time will come one day. Sometimes it comes, very early in life, and sometimes it comes very late, but it's going to come, because any kind of body which is born will die. It's considered, the cutting edge of impermanence practice, and a very powerful practice to help us to get the motivation going for the practice. Sometimes, if we feel like our practice has gotten a bit complacent, maybe. So that's those 4 protective meditations: recollection of the Buddha, and metta, which show us the highest potential of the mind, and asubha, and recollection of death, which shows us the limitation of a human life. And together, they are coaching the mind and helping the mind to set clear priorities. So they are not like a talisman which protects us, because they are not protecting us from problems, but they are helping us, to navigate problems appropriately and to protect ourselves from our own greed, hatred, and illusion, and from the greed, hatred, and illusion of others. That's the protective power of those meditations. And they can help us, to transform obstacles in opportunities, and remind us of what is real, what is true, and what is possible. On one hand, what's the limitations? On one hand, what is the potential? And to always, see both sides. Staying grounded in the limitations of a human body, being very vulnerable in many ways, but then, knowing that the mind can be cultivated to full awakening. They're both true. And generally, there's 2 ways how these practices are applied. Either we can do it, at the beginning of a sit to just, get the mind settled. And then afterwards, do another practice, like just open awareness practice or something like that. Or we can also just have an individual meditation session just about one of those 4 themes. So the courage to explore the true nature of our lives, and protecting us to get lost in our hopes and fears on the path. By, again and again, remembering death will come. The body isn't, only how it looks from the outside. The Buddha was a human being just like us. And, whatever arises in the mind, we can meet it with metta. So that's those 4, supports which we can receive from this kind of meditation. And the meditation on the qualities of the Buddha is based on a certain chant, a classic, Pali chant, which I'm gonna chant to you in a moment, and that lists 9 different qualities of the Buddha, and we're gonna go through all of those 9 different qualities of him, and then for the meditation itself, we're just gonna use 3 of those 9 qualities, and they're going to be, like a mantra. They're gonna be with a very simple visualization. They're going to be over and over again, turned over in the mind. turned over in the mind, until the mind is settled. And then we can just continue with an open awareness practice. So, and probably most of you have never done this kind of a practice because it's not much taught in the West, but I just suggest, just give it a try. You might be surprised. So let me just start with the chant, with the list of those 9 qualities, and they are considered, they are used as a springboard for the mind. So just I chant it first in Pali, and then I go over the words with you. Itipiso bhagava arahang samma sambuddho vichacharana sampanno sukhato lokavidu anuttaro purisa dhamma sarati sata deva manusana buddho bhagavati. That's that list of those 9 qualities. And so the first 5 of those qualities are internal qualities of the Buddha, which makes him a reliable teacher. And the 4 following qualities are how the Buddha has interacted with others, how he can teach and guide others. So first, the 5 internal qualities. The first one was arahang, which means so much as completely eliminated all greed, anger, and delusion from the mind, never to arise again. So it means like fully purified and liberated from samsara, not have to come back again. So a mind fully, completely pure from, negativities. And the next one is Samma Sambuddho, which means perfectly awakened or perfectly enlightened, fully awakened without a teacher. So he found the path by himself, fully understanding all the Dhammas and able to teach them. And that's like also it means complete wisdom. The second quality, Samma Sambuddho, complete wisdom. And the next one is Vichacharana Sampanno, perfect knowledge and understanding and conduct and ethics, as well as mastery of meditation. So has mastered, knowledge and understanding, has mastered ethics and meditation. So complete mastery of the mind. The next one is Sukhato, which means well gone, fully gone along the Noble Eightfold Path and reached the goal of full awakening. And then the next one is Lokavidu, which means knower of the world, fully understood the world and all realms externally and also internally, the world of the 5 aggregates and the 6 senses. So I've understood all of the worlds, internally and externally. So that's what the 5 internal qualities of the Buddha, which makes him a reliable teacher. And then the 4 qualities, how the Buddha interacts with others. First one of those is Anuttara Purisa Dhamma Sarati, which means unsurpassed teacher and trainer of people to be trained, understands their capacity, disposition, and attitudes, and because of that, he can guide them. So that was one of the things the Buddha was very famous for, that he exactly knew how to teach somebody. Some people, he needed to give a very simple task. For example, there was one monk, who wasn't very good in learning anything. So he gave him a piece of cloth, and asked him to rub the cloth. That's the simile of the cloth is one of the suttas. And he rubbed the cloth and rubbed and rubbed and saw, how the cloth started to get darker and changed, and through that had an insight into impermanence. And then to other people, he gave very complex, explanations and instructions, and he always knew what was the right thing, because he could understand with his cultivated mind, he could understand what was the right thing for the individual in order to wake up. So that was Anuttaro Purisadhamma Sarati. And then the next one is Satta Deva Manussanang, which means teacher of beings in the heavenly realms as well as in the human realm. So teacher of devas and humans. Deva means, like Buddhist angels, we could say. And Manussanang, Manusa is human beings. So teacher of devas and humans. And then Buddho means awakened one, also awakener of others, awakener of beings. And then the last one of those four qualities is Bhagava, which means blessed one or exalted one also. And is still used today, in Asia or in India in particular, to address so-called, holy ones, Bhagava. And what that means, Bhagava means so much like that he has fulfilled all of the other qualities I have been mentioning, all of those qualities fulfilled based on his great compassion. So he felt motivated to go through all of those trainings, based on his great compassion for beings. And so he has over countless lifetimes, developed the paramita. And in the canon, the word Buddha is almost not used, but the word Bhagava is used a lot. So if you go into the Pali canon, you can see the word Buddha is very, very rarely used. So that is those, 9 qualities, 5 internal and 4 external. And, when we do the meditation, we first, bring up like an image of a Buddha. Maybe you have a Buddha statue at home, or you can just, visualize a Buddha statue in front of your inner eye, if that works for you. And, maybe reflecting on the fact, that the Buddha's influence for the good on this planet is inconceivable. There's like millions and millions of people who follow his teaching, just like us. It seems a long, long time, as Fahad said, 2,600 years ago, this transmission of the teaching started, and it's still going strong today. So the vast depths of his accomplishment, just, open our minds to that and allow that awesome power, to just uplift our own minds. This unbroken chain of transmission, which we are now benefiting from. And how awesome is that? Imagining, to have a mind like that. How would that be? A mind which is completely free from all negativity. A mind which is wide open as the sky. And if a cloud passes through, it just passes through, and there is no grasping and clinging after that cloud. Because, the karma has been purified, and also insight has been occurring and clearing out what's called the 10 fetters, which, keep the mind grasping and clinging. So it's an awesome accomplishment. And, we are beneficiaries of that. And not to forget also, that he was just a human being. On the one hand, not to forget that he was a human being. On the other hand, not to minimize the awesomeness of the accomplishment. So both sides, holding it both in the mind and recognizing in ourselves the very Buddha in whom we take refuge, because we have that same capacity here, for awareness and for realization. And that's where we really take refuge in. And the outer Buddha, the historical Buddha Gautama, is just like a role model, And, there's a sense of gratitude, of course, for the teaching, and a sense of connection, belonging, to that river of transmission. But the true refuge is here. And the Buddha is just mirroring it back to us. And when we bow to the Buddha, we bow actually to our own potential and also to the historical teacher, if we like. So, and that, that practice, that Buddhanusati, is actually here, to help us to overcome the ignorance about the fact that we have that innate capacity too. So that's what that practice is here for, So every time we do it, ideally, we'd have a greater confidence in our own capacity. Because it puts us in touch with our own true nature, our own, the refuge in Buddha. Taking refuge in the Buddha is taking refuge in that capacity for awakening. Because the Buddha is not able, to kind of rescue us in any way. He can only, give us the instructions, and then we need to carry it out. So I think, let me see if there's anything else. Yeah, and also, I give you these instructions, and then you can be creative, and do what works for you. But the important thing is, to have a ever so tiny, but hopefully a certain sense of awe, which helps to open the mind. Because the sense of awe is like, whoops, it uplifts the mind, and then the mind just opens up. And there's a subtle joy in that, and that subtle joy helps the mind to calm and to settle down. And that's the basic reason why this practice is done, to prepare the mind for settling. Because it's, reflects back to the mind, hey, you can do this. Almost, maybe you can say like a mother, looks at her child when a child is in distress, and a good mother would just say, encourage that in the way she looks at the child, I believe in you, you can do it. And then, the capacity comes forth because it's already there latent. It just needs to be encouraged. So I think that's, that's the overview, I think, about this practice. And as I said before, we're not going to use all 9 qualities because it's too much. We're just going to go for 3 and just going to speak shortly about that. So the first one is going to be Arahang, complete purity. And when I say that, we can just visualize the face of the Buddha for a moment, the complete purity of his appearance. And then the next one is Samma Sambuddho, complete wisdom. We can maybe visualize his eyes, looking in his eyes and see the wisdom in his eyes. And the last one is Bhagava, complete compassion. And we could visualize his feet, because he has been wandering, through the Ganges Valley, like for 45 years, after his awakening, through Central India, teaching people, and sometimes when he saw that somebody was ready, he would go he would walk far to just meet one person because he knew he could like ping them, to wake up. So he had great compassion also. So complete purity, we visualize the face. Complete wisdom, we visualize the eyes. And complete compassion, we visualize the feet. So I think that's it, I would say. And then when we start to meditate, we're gonna sit for a few minutes, and then I start with the guidance, and then we do quite a few rounds of it, and then at the end we just can sit in open awareness. And then there will be also some time for question and responses. And before I start with the guidance, I just want to make sure, is there anything which is confusing, or is there anything which needs to be clarified before I start with the guidance? If not, if it just is another question, then let's wait till the end. But if there's just anything in regarding to the meditation, then that would be good to ask now. You could just raise your Zoom hand and Johnny will help you to come into the space. Okay, so great. So let's start. Please, find a posture you can sustain for about 35 minutes or 30 minutes. Let's see. Just, allowing your breath to take you into the body. Before we're going to start with the meditation, just, remembering why have you come today? What's your motivation for practicing? And then, just allow your nervous system to settle. You're feeling the weight of the body on the chair, on the cushion, the gravity which pulls this piece of land to the planet. Recognizing that we are never cutting the umbilical cord. We are constantly in exchange with planet Earth. And these bodies are Earth element and all the other elements. And there is no separation. It's just a perception. A perception, which is now more and more coming into the foreground as needing urgent adjustment, because the way how we conduct ourselves based on this wrong perception has become a real issue now on the planet. So we are on this evolutionary threshold now where the human species needs to urgently look into this. And everybody individually, by the wise, needs to do that work. But doing it together as a Sangha is so much more doable than doing it on your own. and remembering the vast potential of the mind, the human mind, is a support at this time. So then we can just, bring up an image of the Buddha, Arahang, complete purity. And just allow that, to affect your mind. Arahang, complete purity. And then we come to the next one, Samma Sambuddho, complete wisdom. And visualizing the eyes of the Buddha. Samma Sambuddho, complete wisdom. Visualizing the eyes. And then Bhagawa, complete compassion, visualizing his feet, walking, over India for 45 years. Bhagawa, complete compassion, visualizing his feet. Arahang, complete purity. Visualizing his face. Sambuddho, complete wisdom, visualizing his eyes. Bhagawa, complete compassion, visualizing his feet. Arahang, complete purity, visualizing his face. Sambuddho, complete wisdom, visualizing his eyes. And Bhagawa, complete compassion, visualizing his feet. Arahang, complete purity. Sambuddho, complete wisdom. Bhagawa, complete compassion. Just gonna take one more round, and then you can just sit in open awareness or continue on your own. Arahang, complete purity. Sambuddho, complete wisdom. Bhagawa, complete compassion. Then just, with the in-breath, feeling the subtle joy which the mind receives from this meditation, and with the out-breath, and just relaxing into the spaciousness of the mind, which, has that subtle joy, one of the 7 factors of awakening, which is a prerequisite for calming the mind. with the out breath relaxing into the spaciousness, the silence. The silence and the space which doesn't end at the walls of the room where we are sitting in, just expanding. And then, becoming aware of that which knows about the spaciousness. So, dropping the spaciousness and being aware of that which knows about the spaciousness. Almost making a U-turn. And, conscious awareness of awareness. That which is the, refuge in Buddha. Refuge in awareness. So resting as awareness. The temporary liberation of the mind through practice on this spaciousness, which, the mind, which is uplifted experiences, the joy and the spaciousness. Very subtle joy, or maybe even contentment. Please, can everyone turn off the sound? So in 2-3 minutes I'm going to ring the bell. Still coming back to the breathing, back into the body, feeling the weight. And remembering we are recipients of this teaching, of this very powerful teacher who lived in Iron Age India. At a long time ago, when there were just a few million people on the planet, and how things have changed since then, and how the situation at the moment is pretty alarming, really. The biosphere of the planet is in big distress, coping with all of the impact which we have been originating, with our way of living and with the huge numbers of us. And still, this teaching can still help us. We can still bring this teaching into the contemporary situation. And use it as a foundation from which we can allow this information to change us. Because we do have this refuge in awareness, and we can come back to it any moment we remember it. That gives us a steadiness, that gives us a rooted and groundedness in reality, in the present moment. So now we still have about 15 minutes if there is anything. Anyone would like to maybe comment or clarify something? You just raise your Zoom hand if you like.
Nice.
Barbara?
Thank you. I have a question. That was so beautiful. Thank you so much. A question for clarification. So wisdom is looking into the eyes. Compassion is grounded in the feet.
Yeah. Look at the feet.
Look at the feet.
Yeah.
And purification is
purity is looking at his face.
Thank you.
Thank you. Can be also another, meditation question, or practice question or comment. Doesn't necessarily need to have, to be in connection with the instruction I've been sharing today.
I'd like to ask a question.
Yeah, Jessica?
There in the with the instruction, when I was trying to visualize the various the face and the eyes and the feet, I had the sensation in my body. I think maybe because my attention like sort of is understanding those spaces on my own body, there's some sort of sense that it was here, those it's not just an external something, this Buddha image, or because all that could come to mind is sort of these pictures that I see or these statues, right? But the sense it was in the body as well. And so is that sort of related to this thing about, that the refuge is here, the Buddha is here? Is that sort of like an incorrect understanding of maybe?
No. I think, however, I think, that if you visualize, let's say, the face of the Buddha, that you kind of have a perception also of your own face. I think that makes sense, Yeah. Thank you for asking, Jessica. Well, there's nothing to say. Fahad, do you want to, because at the end I can do some sharing of blessings, but Fahad, is there anything you would like to say before? And thank you, Johnny, for putting the link into the chat again. Thank you.
No, I think that was it, because we're done with the announcements.
All right.
Yeah, I think we can just get into the refuges. The sharing of merit.
Yes. Do you mean I should offer the refuges to the people?
Merit, sharing of merit. I was thinking of something else.
Okay, all right. Sharing of merit, you meant, right? Yeah, okay. So, I'm just going to do the ETP soul one more time, the round of the, because we have the time. I do it maybe 3 times. And ETP soul is that chant, with the 9 qualities of the Buddha. And that ETP soul means so he is. So that's how it starts. And then there is those 9 qualities. So I'm going to chant 3 rounds of that. And then at the end, I do the sharing of blessings. And, and if there's anyone in your lives or any situation who could use some good energy, you could just while I'm doing the chanting, you can, hold the name in your heart or maybe the situation in your heart, an image, and, wishing these people or this situation wishing well and sharing all of the good energy of your practice today with them. And also, saying thank you to SFI for inviting me, to Eugene and Pam, and to you, Fahad, for hosting, and Johnny for, doing the admin, doing everything around it, and for everybody who comes, and to the Buddha, for giving us this powerful teaching. Itipiso bhagava arahang samma sambuddho vichacharana sampanno sukhato lokavidu anuttaro purisatamma sarati satta deva manusanang buddho bhagavati. Itipiso bhagava arahang samma sambuddho vichacharana sampanno sukhato lokavidu anuttaro purisatamma sarati satta deva manusanang buddho bhagavati. Itipiso bhagava arahang samma sambuddho vichacharana sampanno sukhato lokavidu anuttaro purisatamma sarati satta deva manusanang buddho bhagavati. May you have every good blessing. May all the devas protect you by the power of all the Buddhas. May you ever be well. May you have every good blessing. May all the devas protect you by the power of all the Dhamma. May you ever be well. May you have every good blessing. May all the devas protect you by the power of all the Sangha. May you ever be well. So goodbye and all the best.
Thank you.
Until I see you again. Sometime, I don't know, sometimes this year, I think in December. Okay, bye-bye.